and welcome to Seal Rescue Ireland. My name is Nikki, I'm the Education Manager here, and welcome to our second episode of an 8-part mini-series. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the different types of threats that seals can face in their natural environment, and one of them is in our everyday lives. It's plastic. There's a lot of information to cover, so let's get started. In our last episode, we talked a lot about the different types of adaptations that seals have to allow them to thrive in their natural environment. The important adaptation to remember for today's episode is their razor-sharp teeth. So, seals have really sharp, backwards-facing teeth, which allows them to really latch onto their prey. Their prey can often be something that's really slippery or slimy, so it makes sure that they can't wriggle their way back out of their mouths. Seals are what we like to call opportunistic feeders. Opportunistic feeders is a fancy way of saying seals will eat things that they view as a potential energy source. So, if you were a seal and you were swimming around in the sea and you happened to see this really shimmery, shiny piece of plastic in your environment, what would you maybe think that was? A fish! A few years ago, we had a seal at our center called Karma. She was doing really well for the first couple of weeks of her stay here, but unfortunately ended up passing away quite suddenly. Whenever this does happen, we send our seals up to the University College Dublin at their veterinary school so that they can investigate why that might have happened. They actually found out that there were some pieces of a crisp packet lodged inside her intestine, which meant that she wasn't able to absorb any of the nutrients that we were giving her through her food, which ultimately caused her to pass away. Every piece of plastic that has ever been produced is still in existence today. By 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. This is a problem on a global scale as well as a local scale, as Ireland is the leading producer of plastic waste in the European Union, and we're an island completely surrounded by the sea. Plastic is a part of everyday life, and most people don't really think about how much plastic they use. A common type of plastic that we use are single-use plastics. Single-use plastics are things that are only used once before they're thrown away. They're found basically everywhere. Because plastic takes so long to break down or decompose, this is really problematic for our environment. To learn a little bit more about how long it takes plastic and other items to decompose and biodegrade, let's go have a fun chat with our friend, scientist Shiva.
Thank you, Nikki. Hi there, I'm scientist Shiva, and today we're going to be talking about plastics. Plastics make our everyday life so much easier, but unfortunately, we produce too much of it. In fact, we produce so much plastic that we end up with over 400 megatons every year. This is enough plastic waste to rebuild the Great Wall of China every 12 months. On average, every single person in the Republic of Ireland produces over 560 kilograms of waste every year. A lot of that waste ends up in our landfills, which is basically a hole in the ground that all of our rubbish goes into. However, a lot of it also ends up in our natural environment. And I was wondering, what happens to all of that plastic that ends up in our nature? Let's go find out.
All of our waste is either biodegradable or non-biodegradable. Biodegradable means that natural waste will break down into soil or compost, which will then provide nutrients or energy to new plants to grow. Non-biodegradable waste means that it's waste made up of unnatural materials, including chemicals. This means that it takes a very long time to degrade, and in some cases, it might not degrade at all. For example, this apple is biodegradable, which means that it takes about 2 months to biodegrade in nature. While this plastic bottle is non-biodegradable and can take up to 1,000 years to biodegrade in nature, and that depends on the type of plastic it's made out of. Let's talk a bit more about plastics. Plastics break down into smaller pieces of plastics, and those smaller pieces break down into even smaller pieces, and eventually we'll end up with such small pieces that we can't even see them with our naked eye. Those small pieces are called microplastics. Those microplastics can pollute our soil and our water. and are easily swallowed by animals, causing a great threat to those animals as well. Those animals might also end up as our food on our dinner table, causing a great threat to our health as well. Our goal is to reduce plastics as much as possible in order to keep our environment, wildlife, and ourselves as healthy as possible. Now you might wonder, how do we do that? It's simple. Always remember your 6 R's. Refuse, reuse, reduce, repair, recycle, and repeat. And with that, back to you, Nikki.
Now, let's talk about the different types of ways that we can reduce the amount of plastic that we use. Thankfully, lots of single-use plastics have really awesome alternatives that are either reusable or biodegradable. We have some really great alternatives that we'd love to show you, but before we do that, we just want to remind everybody that it's really important to consider that not everybody has the same ability or the same access to these sustainable alternatives. With that being said, let's check out some really awesome alternatives.
Just one reusable tote bag could replace 500 single-use plastic bags in 1 year. If someone uses 3 straws per day, they could replace 1,095 plastic straws per year with just one reusable straw. If you like hot chocolate or your parents like to drink tea or coffee, you might use a lot of to-go cups. If you drink hot drinks twice a day, switching to a reusable cup can replace 730 to-go cups a year. On average, humans need to drink 2 liters of water every day to stay healthy. That's 4 large water bottles. By switching to a reusable bottle, you can replace 1,460 water bottles a year.
Now for an activity that everyone can do at home. I want you to go around your house and try and count up as many single-use plastic items as you can. Once you've got them all together, I want you to think of a really cool way that you can replace them with something that's sustainable, like we were talking about earlier today. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you learned a little bit more about plastics and how they can affect our environment, our seals, other marine wildlife, and ourselves. And I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about how you can be a conscious consumer when it comes to single-use plastics. In our next episode, we're going to be talking to you a little bit more about plastics, but more specifically plastic entanglement and how that can be dangerous too. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. We're at Seal Rescue Ireland on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and we're at Seal_rescue on Twitter. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe. Let's do this together. Bye everyone.